Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Prioritizing the Customer Journey, the Interplay of E-Commerce, Marketing, and AI. Thanks for joining us. I'm Samantha from Digiday, and I'll be your moderator. Today's webinar is sponsored by our partner, IBM. For today's webinar, we'll be taking our Q&A portion to Twitter. Be sure to tweet out your questions during or after the presentation using the hashtag #AICustomerJourney. Our presenters will be answering your questions via Twitter for the entire week after broadcast. So if you're watching a webinar at a later date, you're in luck. Everyone who registered for today's webinar will also receive an email with a recording of the session tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. We're joined today by Kaylee Iandiorio, Global Product Marketing Manager at IBM Watson Commerce, and Jay Lee, Global Product Marketer at IBM Watson Marketing. Kaylee drives marketing, messaging, and positioning for the Watson Commerce products, working closely with customers, analysts, and others to ensure IBM solutions are based on market needs. Jay is a global product marketer with IBM Watson Marketing, where he leads strategic marketing efforts for a portfolio of AI-powered marketing personalization, marketing analytics, and CX SaaS offerings. Okay, let's get started. Jay, take it away.
Thank you, Sam. So before we start, just let me talk about AI, and so that we can level set IBM's point of view in regards to the definition of AI and really the kind of characteristics. So, as some folks might know, traditional computing is programmed, rule-based, logic-driven, dependent on organized information. But cognitive or AI systems are probabilistic. They learn systematically. They are not dependent on rules. They handle disparate and varied data. Some of the core, I would say, characteristics are really kind of four areas. So number one, it's about understand. Number two, reason. Learn is a third, and then finally, it's about interaction. So really quickly, I want to go, before we go into our topic, talk about these things so that we have a clear understanding coming into this webinar, really kind of the characteristics of AI. So when we talk about understand, it's about the AI system that really takes unstructured information, such as images, natural language, sound, things that are in books, emails, tweets, journals, blogs, what have you. It's really that type of data and understanding that. Number two is that reason, and they unlock meaning because they reason through it, giving us new context to wait and consider. Third, cognitive systems also continue to learn, and I do want to emphasize it continually does that in terms of that learning capability, honing that own expertise so that we can immediately take and be more informed in terms of our actions and our decisions that we need to make. And then lastly, they interact with us, with our customers. Really kind of removing that barrier between humans and machine, fueling that unique and essential user experience. So hopefully with that, folks have a true understanding now, just in terms of a point of view, regards to IBM's view on AI. So with that, I'm going to actually pass the baton to Kaylee.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate that overview of AI. So we're going to jump into how AI is being incorporated into what we're doing in marketing and e-commerce to help retailers and brands kind of rethink how they are engaging their customers. And this is the future that we see due to the big changes we've seen in e-commerce. So it's being driven by retailers like Amazon, who are continually pushing the envelope of how customers engage and what they demand from brands. But that's not just Amazon's influence. It is, of course, the change in technology. So what's available to customers through the phones they use, tablets and such, the social media channels they engage through, and therefore how brands can speak to them beyond just providing a transaction, but engaging them with interesting experiences and content and such. And that really rolls nicely into the second bullet point here around how customers view websites and brands and looking for information and any ways that they engage with those brands. It is not always, and very rarely, in fact, that they go to a site specifically to buy something. Amazon might be the exception where people go to Amazon to buy, but most visits to sites are involving other activities. It's learning about the product or the services or being inspired by other customers' experiences with that product or service, or wanting to share their own experience with that product or service. So here's what I did with this product or this trip or this destination I went to, and sharing that with their friends and others. And so AI it plays an important role as you engage with them in the marketing front, as you entice them to buy in the commerce front, by helping you, as Jay alluded to, do these 4 areas better: reason, understand, learn, and apply AI to improve that customer journey. So if you move a slide, Jay. And fundamentally, what we're trying to do with our solutions and how we work with retailers is help them remove friction from that experience. Again, it's not just the buying experience, but it's helping a customer learn more about your brand and your products and your services, inspiring them to share their own experiences and want to come to your site and return to your site and your company because they love what you're doing. Right? So and you can do that by understanding who they are at a personal level, fundamentally taking the data that they're sharing with you, because all these new technologies and all these new channels provides a new wealth of data. And that's where AI really provides value, is being able to parse these huge amounts of data that are being shared now between customers and brands through all these mediums, and saying, oh, based on this, we know who this person is. We know how they like to buy. We know what they like to buy, when they like to buy. So we can make it very easy for them because we know them really well. We know when they're ready, and we know what types of offers to provide to them, and what type of experience to provide to them. And we can help do that very seamlessly and simply through these solutions that we're combining. So we're talking about Watson Marketing, Watson Commerce, and the AI solutions embedded within them. So that's kind of the foundation. It's a fast-changing world for e-commerce, but with AI and the solutions we're putting together, it's really positioned to take advantage of that. So next slide.
Great, Hadley. Thank you. Let me take this particular slide here. So, what we see here is AI powered in commerce, and it's abundant, right? You see a number of different capabilities, from journey analytics, predictive insights, content tagging, cognitive assistant. There's a lot more, but these were the ones that we kind of want to highlight. And as we talked about, AI is here. We're fortunate enough to obviously leverage these technologies and capabilities. In the end, AI is for scaling. AI is for making sense of unstructured data, as I mentioned earlier. AI is for identifying patterns and drawing insights. And lastly, AI is for harmonizing disparate data sets. So what's the advantage here, right? For marketers and commerce professionals, it really frees, all of us, as a practitioner of marketing or a commerce professional, to focus on adding business value by enacting business-backed revenue-driving strategies. We know that AI can be applied to a number of these marketing capabilities or commerce, but for today's webinar, we're going to focus on just a couple of them. So let's begin. Kaylee?
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, so the first case study I'm going to walk through is around showcasing the ability for AI to influence and make the role of merchandisers and marketers much more efficient around managing content. For folks who are working with content-rich websites and experiences, whether that's text or photos, it's important that a couple of things are achieved. Consistency of the experience, so that regardless of the channel or the device that a customer may be coming in on, they're seeing the same images, they're reading the same content, they're having the same experience. And that's a challenge sometimes, because you have multiple siloed groups working independently at times with potentially different repositories of content. Or the other challenge being, is that content tagged appropriately, so that when on their internal systems they're searching for the perfect image for a product or an experience, that image is the same one that everyone used, because it's tagged exactly the same and consistently. This may seem like a really rudimentary thing, but it's important that it gets done. It's important it gets done right for every single image. And as you can imagine, running that across thousands of images can be very time consuming. And again, as Jay mentioned, that's not why you hire these marketers and merchandisers, to tag thousands of images every day. It's to be strategic about the business direction. And so if we jump to the next slide, we'll talk specifically about one of our customers, Vivere.travel. And I encourage you to go visit the site. It's a beautiful site. It is essentially a digital travel agency. So they help people through the process of finding the right vacation for their personality, for their goals. It helps kind of walk them through the options and where they can go, what they're trying to do. Is it relaxing? Is it is it adventure? And of course, for travel in particular, you can see how imagery plays a huge role in this, right? It's about inspiring them, exciting them about the destination, what can be done there. And as you would imagine, there's a lot of images that need to be maintained. And so rather than having an individual or several individuals manage all of these images, upload them all, tag them all, and hope, hope against hope that they're consistent with their tagging. They all describe blues the same way. They describe the destinations the same way, and the images that they're using the same way. That then they can be accessed and used by the organization to send out proactive marketing campaigns, to have that, again, consistent experience, and do so without wasting these people's time. That's where cognitive tagging comes in. So the ability for an AI assistant to essentially look at every image, be able to recognize the pieces of the image, the people, the places, the types of colors, and whether it's water or lakes or mountains, and really help the internal teams manage that, is also something you see influence the customer experience, right? So now the customer is getting a better experience. It's personalized. It's consistent. They're not going to see different images or different descriptions for a vacation package they're interested in, whether they come in through mobile or tablets or on their desktop. It's all going to be consistent and managed and organized through one single repository that has been consistently managed and tagged by this AI assistant. The result is significant amounts of time saving for the merchandisers, who can then do much more interesting things to support the business, be more strategic. Again, as Jay mentioned in the previous slide, to drive greater value for the customer and increase the value of the company, and just be seen as value adders as opposed to kind of doing this grunt work on a daily basis. So, great story. Encourage you to go visit the site Vivere.travel and see how they're maximizing the use of their content. Back to you, Jay.
Awesome. Thank you, Keely. So on this particular slide, just want to, what is the advantage, right? We talked about being more strategic, giving you more time, and really kind of the areas that you need to kind of work. If you think about agile marketing, it's a combination, right? But in the end, what this is all about is giving the marketers that competitive edge to know their customers one-to-one, to getting that deeper insights and analytics. And remember, with data, it's raw, right? And there's an art in regards to taking that data and transforming that into insights. But what do you do with the insights? You're obviously applying them in a number of different ways, and obviously you have to be kind of wise to discern, where you actually kind of use that to help make your decisions day to day. And again, another area that I want to kind of point out, I'll talk a little bit further, is about this point of customer struggle, right? I think all of us, whether we go to a store or online or mobile, we've experienced this, right? And so it's talking about that entire customer journey, from really kind of that entire linear fashion, but there is no end. It's about having and building that deeper relationship one by one. So what I want to do is talk about this particular capability. So the next slide is talking about cognitive assistant. So earlier, this year, IBM actually conducted a study, the Institute of Business Value study, found that CMOs and marketing functions are increasingly using AI to deliver more personalized customer experiences and make more informed decisions. In fact, nearly 40% of CMOs are planning to reinvent customer experience with AI. AI can also have a significant impact on marketers' productivity, as I mentioned before. Here's another point. According to Gartner, marketing analysts can spend what feels like maybe around 20-30 hours of their work week, really kind of data managing, working in spreadsheets, and obviously a number of different applications. But where is that productivity going? So it's just not what humans are good at, but that's where AI excels, and obviously this is where that competitive advantage comes into play. AI can help marketers automate that manual, time-consuming process. So again, freeing up time so that they can be more creative, more productive, really kind of spending where they need to spend. And again, this is where Watson Assistant for Marketing comes into play. So, how do we apply that? And this is specifically this case study here with Ingersoll Rand. Ingersoll Rand, I believe everyone knows just in terms of what they do, but just to make sure that everyone knows, they were a leader in industrial manufacturing for creating comfortable and sustainable, efficient environments. And they actually use Watson Assistant for Marketing to quickly gain competitive insights, campaign insights specifically, across a number of different data sets in a single view. Again, they're asking, as marketers, we ask a lot of questions, right? How are we performing? How are campaigns performing? Where is the ROI? Obviously, to answer those questions, we need data to support, our decision-making, processes. And again, this is where Ingersoll Rand is to look at and to actually extract some of that insight so that they can intelligently craft and obviously pivot what they need to do from a campaign perspective. Also from a targeting perspective as well. That's something that, obviously it's going to help them to truly have that one-on-one personalized experience with their customers. In the end, this is something that obviously it empowers. It becomes a sidekick of the marketing team, almost an extension, if you will, as part of your colleague, the work colleague, continuing to learn. And so it's exciting to see, some of our customers obviously applying this new technology. Back to you, Kaylee, on this particular slide.
Yeah, so a similar theme here in terms of tracking and understanding anomalies in the customer experience, and this is very specific to commerce. So this is helping out merchandisers as they're tracking the performance of products on their website, and so whether that's great performance, all of a sudden a spike in sales, or whether it's bad performance, sales are down, and trying to figure out why. So it first, of course, is notifying you of this in real time, which in itself, may seem surprising, but is a challenge, right? So there's a lot of data that folks have to crunch, and in the case study following this, I'll explain what that is in a bit more depth. But it's about identifying these anomalies up and down in your sales in real time, and then going a step further with the AI support of saying, here's the issue, here's what we think the cause is, and here's some recommendations of how you could potentially solve this. So it's taking a lot of that grunt work of trying to collate all this data, analyze this data, come to some conclusions. AI is there to help the merchandiser, help us think about what this means and how to take action on it. And that's the important piece, is how do you take action on this, right? So everyone can access this data, they can crunch this data. It would just take too long to make effective decisions. So this is about making actionable decisions in real time that will affect your business, that will increase your sales, and help your customers find what they're looking for and be able to buy what they're looking for. And fundamentally, that's what you're trying to do as a business. So it's a very interesting application of the AI technology that we're leveraging for commerce. And if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about a really exciting case study, one that came out just recently from our client Carhartt. So Carhartt is a North American-based workwear brand. So they create really rugged outdoor workwear for men and women to do those outdoor jobs. And they actually just recently expanded into Europe with a few dozen actually or so websites in Europe. So that was very exciting for them. I think it was first foray overseas, and they're doing that with the confidence of Watson's AI to support them. And the story is, before they had this AI assistant helping their merchandisers out, there was an experience they had where in the aftermath of the Interstellar movie, if you're familiar with that one, Matthew McConaughey movie, there were several scenes where he is featured wearing Carhartt jacket. This was not planned by Carhartt. They didn't enter into any agreement with Matthew McConaughey or the movie folks to wear Carhartt gear. They just happened to wear it. They thought it was a very authentic look, and it's a very authentic brand. And so they chose to put Matthew McConaughey in a Carhartt jacket. And unbeknownst to Carhartt, no surprise, the website blew up with searches around that jacket, whether it was Matthew McConaughey, Interstellar, or just people trying desperately to find that jacket. And it wasn't one of their best sellers. It wasn't one that they followed closely because it wasn't one of their best sellers. So they didn't really realize this spike in traffic and interest in this product for a couple of weeks, because that's how long it took them to crunch their data, have their data analysts and several people on this team analyze that data and say, hey, wait a second, look at this. There's a huge spike in this specific jacket. And they didn't know, of course, at the time that Matthew McConaughey was the cause of this. And they come to find out there's this huge spike. They weren't able to optimize any of their website experience to push that coat up front and to get more sales, to increase their inventory. None of that, right? So they really missed a big opportunity. And so now what they did was they implemented our AI assistant to help their merchandisers and help them identify these anomalies. And so going forward, they are confident, reaching out into these other European markets, that no matter what, they will be able to quickly identify anomalies like this without having to wait 2 weeks. And not only that, but as I mentioned, they'll have their recommendations of how to address this change, right? So move this product to the top left, make it featured in all searches as the basic results, and so on. So just ways to pump up the activity of any of these products that spike. And so it was a big win for them to get AI in, and they are, again, confident that in the future, if these kind of anomalous spikes in traffic and interest in a specific item happen, they'll be on top of it without wasting too much time and missing those opportunities. So Jay, back to you.
Great, thanks, Kelly. So the next area I want to kind of focus on is on personalization. So personalization is fairly huge, and I've been going to a number of different conferences, and I've also done other webinars as well. And I think there's consensus that obviously with the technologies out there, specifically with AI, the whole idea of personalization is becoming louder. Customer demand is increasingly challenging out there. They're demanding more. And so, this whole idea of let's get personal, right? But what this is all about is ensuring that marketers focus on true one-on-one customer experiences. And again, you hear this common denominator that's going on throughout this webinar is this continued idea that build that relationship, not as a single transaction, but looking at the lifetime value of that customer. And it's about delivering the right content. And what I mean by content here, it could be information, it could be an offer, right? Based upon what you've done in the past, how have you interacted with that particular brand. So think about all the behaviors, whether it's online, digitally, or in store. But at the same time, marketers and commerce folks are looking at the demographics. Obviously, where you live and what you do and so forth. All those different factors really determines that personalization and how marketers and businesses really kind of interact with their customers. So this one example here is a case study focused on Bank of Montreal. So Bank of Montreal is a leading provider of financial services in North America, and they know that customer expectations are changing. It's not just obviously static. The demands are obviously changing. The demographics are obviously needs to be tailored towards them. But they're increasing customer preference to engage with banks at a time. They want to basically engage at any time and on a channel of their own choosing. So whether they go into a retail bank or obviously go online or even on their phone, there's a number of different ways that Bank of Montreal obviously engages with their customers. But ultimately, in the end, what they wanted to do is to identify the best offer for every customer in real time to inspire them to trust them with more of their business. And so, they deployed AI to solve a number of different issues. And really, they come with a number of, I would say, in deploying AI, benefited a number of different ways. So I would actually highlight three. I know on the slide here it actually shows one, but they were able to net out about 3 million interactions each year, just in terms of identifying and to adapt unique customer preferences. And the second area is 3 times just in terms of boosting their offer response rates, because they enhance targeting based upon customer interaction and that behavior. And when they looked at just in terms of the ROI, it took almost 6 months to deliver just in terms of what investment that they put into the product. So Obviously the whole idea is to improve that customer interaction and obviously leveraging AI to enhance that. You can see the benefits of personalization and that one-to-one experience that they give to their customers. So the last area that I want to kind of focus on is in regards to struggle detection. What this is all about is really kind of looking and identifying and recognizing the moments of struggle. When I mention struggle, it's, think of it as, if you were going to your favorite retailer that you put everything in your shopping cart, and then all of a sudden that coupon code or that cart, when you hit purchase or next, it didn't work. So I know all of us have experienced that in one time or another, but those are things that obviously, from a marketing perspective as well as commerce, we see that, and obviously it's a huge pain for us. We want to make sure that that customer experience is pretty seamless to make sure that those buttons, those promo codes work, and especially in a mobile world that doesn't break down. But imagine that you're able to get alerts, not just in terms of at the end of the month that you're getting this report from your management team, but as it happens. In this way, you don't have to wait for that revenue to decline before you realize something's wrong. You're able to address that, fix that immediately with your team, so that the customer experience is basically fixed. So this one case study that I want to focus on is in regards to American Eagle. So I think everyone knows, American Eagle is the retailer. And this particular use case, they wanted to ensure that they deliver high quality shopping experience on every digital channel. So what they wanted to focus on was improving that online customer experience. In essence, they needed a new approach to identify sticking points on both mobile and online journeys that frustrated their customers. So what ended up happening just in terms of using AI-powered solutions is actually a couple of areas. So one, they were actually able to recover, really kind of from a money perspective, lost sales opportunities by fixing those cart issues. So again, imagine, the frustration from customers and going through that experience that, they spend some time and obviously, put stuff in the shopping cart, and then all of a sudden they can't finish that transaction. But obviously with this AI-powered solution, they're able to remedy that fairly quick. From a mobile experience, they were able to increase that mobile traffic by almost 20%. But again, really kind of identifying, recognizing, and working with their internal teams to remedy those issues. Third, they were able to recover customers from incorrect promo codes. So again, those are ways that retailers, commerce, and marketing folks work together. They're able to kind of identify that struggle or that issue and use that opportunity to address it. And then lastly, it's about making sure that the customer is satisfied. If you think about NPS scores and so forth, obviously that's something that's really big, especially for a lot of customers that we work with. But just in terms of American Eagle, they were able to improve customer satisfaction by limiting those accounts reset errors. So many times if you lose your user IDs or passwords, but obviously with AI, it's there to help you to streamline some of those struggle issues. So I think with that, we conclude our webinar, and we actually send it back to Sam, our host.
Great. Thank you so much, Kaylee and Jay, for all of your great insights. And just a reminder for all of our attendees, the full recording of the webinar will be made available to you in a follow-up email tomorrow. So once again, you can tweet questions for our presenters using the hashtag AI Customer Journey up until Friday, January 4th. All right, so thanks again, everyone, and thanks to you all for joining us today. We hope you learned something. Keep an eye in your inboxes tomorrow for a link to the recording, which you can watch on demand. Thanks again, and please enjoy the rest of your day.